We're right at 4:30 now, so doesn't look like, I don't know, do we have any public comment? Okay, no, we don't have any public comment, so I will turn over you to
Okay.
Dr. Lovelady Mitchell.
All right. Well, good afternoon, Chairperson Ross and trustees. We have a full agenda for tonight. And first, want to just say thank you for all the work that you've been putting into the Facilities Master's Plan and the now voted on and approved plan that came afterwards. Tonight, of course, will amplify some of the activity we've been engaged in, and it's all aligned to our priority scholar outcomes and our strategic themes. And so as you go throughout the different tiles, you will see that. The other couple of things that I just want to illuminate and will continue to clarify, and you'll hear more about as we get deeper into the plan, is just amplifying a couple different values. And one is all of this work is really around caring for humans and the value of fostering and sustaining strong, inclusive, healthy learning communities. And so understanding that means, one, acknowledging multi-generational voices. The healing and healthy part means honoring our healing repair and collaborating. And second value is that it's child-centered, meaning who we are and what we do is in service of our children and the folks that service them. But that's our top priority, child focus. And the last value that I will bring up tonight is making sure that as we go deeper, that we are creating learning spaces that are nimble. So it moves the learning to the center of the tables where our children are and away from the sage on the stage. And so tonight, we have a full agenda, and of course, we're living in the welcome section of the agenda, but you will hear from our instructional council chair, Mr. Max Young. And the second and third bullet in particular, I just want to amplify how cross-sector or sectional it is in terms of the teachers and the administrators from various grade levels really driving that work, which is something that we've talked about here. So the instructional council update will happen, then the science curriculum advisory committee, which we had some questions and grappled with some content last time we were together, so bringing that back. Then you'll hear a little bit about intercession, and that is another extension of how we're taking care of children during winter break, so you'll hear about that. And you'll hear about a strategy that we think helps in terms of going deeper with our family, caregiver community, child and literacy engagement via the take-home books from Barnes & Noble. And then we'll end with the iReady pilot update, because as we have gotten into some different things, we have discovered some things and we're making adjustments so we can be more diagnostic in the work that we do and adjust our learning and teaching accordingly. And so with that being said, know that the tiles do build, but we want this to be interactive, so ask the questions that you need to. But I would love to call up Mr. Max Young with our instructional council update. And I think this is his, you know what, come on to the table, and we will adjust as we need to in the future, but I think you're at the table today. And I think this is Max's first time.
Yeah, so bear with me, please.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. So when I make a mistake, just let me know. But anyways, my name is Maximilian Young. I'm chair for the instructional council team. I actually co-chair with Jennifer Loudon. We had our third meeting, November 16th, for instructional council, and it is GREA led this year. We opened up with introductions and a representation of elementary, general, elementary special education, middle school teachers, high school teachers. In attendance, we had Jennifer Brock, Amy Powney, Tina Watson, Jennifer Hutchinson, Taryn Eva, Matt Marlowe, Charlotte Cabello Rivera, and Heather Kwame. And we focused on GR Teach Club was the main part of this. So the GR Teach Club, otherwise I'll be talking about it, calling it Future Proud Michigan Educator Courses. It's a pilot, and we are in our second year of this grant. Its purpose is to bring students the opportunity to become educators, and not only to become educators, but to retain those students, soon to be educators. The club helps future educators investigate how education and other educational careers are important to community development. So not just teachers per se, but how can teachers become lawyers, doctors, et cetera, et cetera. There would be 7 topics in this course: cultivating healthy communities, cultural identity, education equity and opportunity equity, college access, clinical experience, and as well as a teacher's choice. And that teacher's choice would be hopefully stitched together with the university that we would have them working with. I'll talk about some of those universities that we've discussed during those meetings. As for within those topics, we would have units, and those units would cover either an activity, a debate, an essay, project-based learning, or observations within a classroom. So, for example, Unit 2 would be getting to know each other. Unit 3 would be an essay/debate on the purpose of education and the students' rights, and specifically the students' and the teachers' rights. Unit 4 would be project-based learning, where the student teaches the teacher. So again, giving them that chance to become a teacher, create their own lesson plan, implementing that lesson plan for the teacher to kind of get a viewpoint of that. They would also be in the classroom to kind of try it out to be the teacher in there. Unit 5 would be observations within a classroom, where you get to interview the teacher, kind of discuss what it's like to be a teacher in the career, and debate how can we retain teachers. So students would get the idea what it's like to be a teacher. Why is it that teachers are not that they're not sticking around? Why is it that we can't have subs? Why is it that we're having these struggles? So they would get to see that side and also come up with their own solutions, seeing it from their point of view. And also kind of get their idea as to what would keep students in GRPS, what would make them want to stay, what would make future teachers want to stay in GRPS.
Is this a class we're developing?
It's a club.
A
I
club.
shouldn't have said class, I apologize.
No. Oh, I see. It's right in the name. I guess I can
Yeah,
figure that out.
I apologize.
No. So are you having it after school or during the school?
Yeah, so we actually, we have some schools participating in it right now. Southwest Innovation Central High School, Riverside Middle, and Burton. And the goal is to hopefully tie that in with universities such as Michigan State, Grand Valley, Western Michigan, Calvin, and Davenport. Hopefully we can get credits out of that and maybe have a dual credits for that.
What were those schools again? I got Burton and there was,
The schools that are doing after school, Riverside Middle School and Burton. Now, the focus of the program includes project-based learning with a goal on addressing the problem of retention of teachers. That's going to be the main focus. And the goal for the future is to hopefully expand the program throughout all of high schools and middle schools while creating a dual enrollment opportunity and establishing mentors from GRPS, even when the scholars are off in the universities. So even if they're at Grand Valley, per se, we would still have a connection with them through GRPS. And kids pre-K through 6th grade would also have a preview to the program, but we'll be focusing on engagement in STEM. Any questions on that?
I just have a question about,
Yeah.
we have a teacher center over at Innovation Central, don't we? And how is that doing, or don't you know? I mean,
I do not know about that, how that's been. I could ask Charlotte, who has been more involved in that. I just know that they are participating in the program so far.
okay.
And I think we just continue to try to deepen that program and make it stronger. So maybe that's one of the topics we can bring back. In addition to, we have a partnership with Michigan State. That's like a teacher cadet program
Okay,
too.
good.
So we'll
Yeah.
make sure we combine both and
Yeah.
bring it back.
I'd like to hear about that,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I'm just kind of listening and pondering. Our current sort of formalized middle college program that we have at Ottawa is, I think maybe is it just Ottawa?
The middle
formalized?
college?
Yeah.
I think it's at more than just Ottawa.
Well, I know there's obviously dual enrollment opportunities available throughout the district, but I'm thinking, but a formalized sort of middle college piece where, again, the 5th year is the earning one's associate, and I'm just kind of wondering if there's ability to formalize something in that context. Not that obviously something through the 4 years of Michigan State or whatever isn't sensible. But as we jump through hoops, articulation agreements with higher ed institutions, there can be some challenges with that. So I'm just thinking about alternate routes to earn student credits, and maybe there's a pre-education program that maybe goes through maybe even GRCC. Then at that point, obviously, students with that pre-education associates, if you would then have an easier transfer route to a Michigan State or someplace else. And again, I'm way out of my,
It's okay. We get it though. So I would love to bring back some information on middle colleges in general. And I do want you to know that Michigan State program that I was talking about, there is like a pre-education course. It's more general, and it's trying to help people understand what are the topics that you care most deeply about. It's more of a social justice type class and giving exposure to education through that lens. And the point about what credit might they earn as a high school student at entering GRCC or other
Wherever,
programs. Yeah, so let us bring back those in particular, and some of that is already in place, and there's a plan to even strengthen it. So we'll bring it back. You want to push on that?
anything?
Can I ask you a question, though?
Yeah.
Mr. Young, so are you a teacher as well? And then
Yes,
you do this
I'm
as
a
an
middle school
additional
teacher over at
component of
Harrison
it?
Park.
Okay. Great. The council meets once a month then? Is that what I'm catching?
Yes, every third Thursday of the month.
Okay.
We are actually not meeting this week due to no curriculum being brought up to the council.
Okay. And how big or how many staff members are in the council?
On the council,
Yeah.
we usually get to around 10 to 11. And we do get a pretty good mix of, like I said, we get a mix from elementary to middle school to high school, some admin, GREA, non-GREA, so.
Okay. Max, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, guys.
So when we bring back that information, Dr. Nelson in particular will have some exciting news to share about the Michigan State partnership related to that teacher cadet-like program. But what's up next is our 612 Science Curriculum Advisory Team and K-5 Science Materials Update. And so I would love to call our curriculum specialist, Jessica, up to the table. And Jessica is relatively new. I think you all met her for the first time late last year, maybe. But she's been doing some amazing work, and so she'll talk a little bit about that and the Scholar Priority outcomes that it's aligned with, her work is aligned with.
Really quick, thank you for your work. I appreciate, I didn't have any questions, and so I was like, no questions, but I do appreciate that initiative.
Thank you, Trustee Wade. How about you grab that mic a little closer? Yeah. There you go. Thanks.
Hello. Testing. Well, hello, everyone. It's nice to get the chance to speak in front of you. Jessica Vanderk. I started in May of this year, so looking forward to working with you all and getting to know you better. Today, we're going to be talking about the Science Curriculum Advisory Group that has been in progress. And we will also be talking about the supplies for the K through 5, supplies and curriculum for the K through 5 science program. The strategic themes I believe it aligns to is 1 through 4. I think just making sure we all have equal access to good supplies and materials is part of our vision, and I think we can help do that by what I'm talking to you about today. So the science curriculum, I must have done this by accident, I apologize, the transition. The Science Curriculum Advisory Team has been, it's been going, I say that delicately, since May, because that's when I started. But we spent the summer and early fall recruiting help from the teachers, principals, and staff, and also spending time creating surveys that would be meaningful and help us collect the data that we need to make good choices as we select our next curriculum. As you may know, our science curriculum needs to be renewed by our next school year. So we are looking to find a nice resource to use going forward. Our first meeting was held in September, and we chose to meet as a K through 12 group, even though our most immediate need is going to be through 6 through 12, secondary. But we felt the September meeting, we could help make sure our values are well noted and aligned before we look forward to the materials we want to survey and look at as we do our review process. In October, we used the values that we agreed upon to create a rubric and begin screening the resources. And we have been doing that for several months as I have continued to recruit more folks to join us in this work. It's really important, especially being newer to the district, that I feel like the voice of the teachers and the administrators that have been in this district a long time should be really forward as we make this choice. So I've really been trying to listen. I've sent several surveys, some of them targeting potential group members, and also some to just the leadership of the group, of the district, apologies. At this point in December, we are compiling our data and making a selection for our pilots, which will happen in the remaining of our school year, our current school year, for the 6 through 12 resources. So some of the work you can see that we went through was taking a look at our present state and the desired state of our science program. We've done this through multiple ways, not only the surveys I mentioned, but also using professional development opportunities to capture feedback. The thought behind that was the more voices, the better. So every opportunity we've had since the school year began, we've been trying to capture data. We know we need a leadership group that can help make these decisions, and this is the work that's been forming our group so far. Because we're science teachers, we thought we'd start with a driving question, and as you all know, that's kind of our thing. But what we really wanted to know is what we need to consider as we look for a high-quality Tier 1 resource, and knowing that we have specific places we need to special and themes that we need to attend to as well, but knowing that our role as a group, despite that, is to have a good resource set for all of our schools equally, whether they're a theme school or not. This is the work that we did, deciding what our values are. As you can see, this is some of the things that everyone agreed upon as what we need to look for in a high-quality Tier 1 science resource. Some of the things you'll notice is experiential, phenomenon-driven, student-centered, using student talk. Lab materials are important. NGSS alignment is important to teachers. And just contextual value so that students feel like science is relevant in their lives, and to look at the interdisciplinary and interconnected ways we talk about our curriculum, not only our science. So a couple of photos here of our process, going through making sure we know what a good phenomenon-driven experience is like, and then from there selecting resources we feel like we can adapt and use, and creating our rubrics. And we have reviewed about 16 different curriculum between the 6th through 8th grades. We are, like I said, we're compiling the data, so I don't have all the information on what we're going to pilot yet, but that's coming next.
So quick question.
Yeah.
When we say Tier 1, just to making sure I'm tracking, what we mean by that is curriculum that's used as the primary curriculum throughout the district.
Correct.
But there may be other supplemental things that would be Tier 2, et cetera, et cetera. But Tier 1 is something that everyone, okay. Just making
Yes.
sure.
And it provides us the opportunity for our, the assessments we want to do, and like how do we want to measure up the learning over the course of the year. As we have gotten through the process so far, I just wanted to give you a little forecast of what would be happening next. And I did this again, apologies, as I scroll through all these. Oop, back up. So in January, we should start to receive piloting supplies, begin to establish which teachers will be piloting which resources. In February, we hope to start getting feedback and data from our student surveys And we will have to not only pilot one, but move into a second one. Early in March or late February, we should be able to start getting into our second resource and get more feedback from both the scholars and the teachers. And then we need to spend the remainder of April figuring out what our choice will be so that we can bring it to you all in a timely manner, and hopefully move forward with a quality resource. Yes?
So at this point, you're testing out 2 different curriculums?
We are working to narrow our choices down to 2 or 3 top resources.
Okay.
And that, our hope is that each of our advisory group teachers would be willing to pilot at least 2, if not 3 lessons. They do take about a month
Okay.
to
So
do.
Each teacher would do one specific curriculum, and
Well, the hope is that a teacher would experience more than one type of curriculum so that they can compare how they feel about the resource going forward.
I have a question about, so your team will recommend a curriculum to the board, or is it somebody in the middle they have to, like,
Other than the
like a
people I
director
work
of
with.
science? I don't know. Is there like somebody else in, you know what I'm asking? Like,
Yes.
is there a,
She is
Oh,
the
that's you.
curriculum specialist or curriculum supervisor of science, and she is engaging the process of harvesting ideas from teachers and leaders, and then also working collaboratively with the rest of the curriculum team, the director of
Okay.
curriculum, and the other content areas.
okay, so, all right, thank you.
Does,
And-
does that, you had an and, let her say her and then ask your question if you still have a question, okay?
And I wanted to emphasize that I have been working closely with the Kent ISD science curriculum specialist there as well to help inform me what other districts are doing and the process other districts are using, and to give me some inside notes and feedback on how people are doing with certain curricula and what the response time is on companies and things like that that we don't always know a little bit behind the
So,
scenes.
and you've seen her in the picture, Wendy Vogel, and she works at the state level as well as national level. So bringing all that to the district to also integrate into this. Does that, what was your
Absolutely.
question? Is that what?
It answers it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Okay. I think forecasting was about it. So this is the conclusion, just speaking about the advisory team, other than the fact that what we're leading to next, on the next slide, is the K through 5. But to emphasize that the values that we established early on in our curriculum advisory group are something we looked for as well when we talk about purchasing any new materials for K through 5. That's why I wanted to bring to you this K through 5 materials request about mystery science. I don't know if you're familiar with the phenomenon that is mystery science, but it is a very popular, actually another tier 1 resource. We haven't always used it that way, but we've decided that because of the feedback, the strong reaction from students and the teachers, that we can continue to use it for the next several years per our contract. But we also want to make sure we're giving the educators the resources and materials they need to do them, do justice to the lessons that are provided to them. So we are requesting to purchase the mystery science kits for our K through 5 classrooms. You can see that it's one of the most popular and most requested. Even since I started collecting my data in my surveys, I'm getting constant requests for mystery science kits. So I have been tracking those requests, and some of the feedback I've received is here about engagement, about middle school is usually the MS, mystery science in the past and with their own children at home, and the way that they've recognized that the use of mystery science can help increase scores. Not only that, but just we know more science is good for our scholars to get exposure to that. And if there's a low-stress, accessible program for our educators to use, that it's more likely they'll spend more time actually talking about science. And we hope to emphasize that going forward, and so that's why we are putting this request for Mystery Science forward.
And you might have one or two more tiles, right?
Yes. Let me do that.
So tonight you are asking us to approve this Mystery Science Pack?
So, here's how you would like the support. Here's what you would like from the board in terms of answering your question.
Yes. I know first is awareness, becoming aware of the need and the proposal in front of you. So part of it is information. I wanted to make sure that you are clear of the efforts to provide more hands-on experiential learning to our scholars. I wanted to make sure that you know that the equitable access to these materials are a forefront of what we're trying to do with this work. Not only that, but to field experiences. And I would like to also get as much support going forward, knowing that science is a daily thing for our educators to put into our scholars' lives, not something that's necessarily done half the year or now and then, but instead something that they experience in their daily lives. So I believe you all can be very supportive in that mindset going forward.
So some of the reason why our science curriculum supervisor specialist is here tonight is because there were questions about science advisory last time we were together. And so we wanted to, one, bring Jessica back because she's fairly new in this capacity, and to also just amplify some of the cross-sector work that she is doing. And I think that the work that she's doing does honor teacher voice, school community leadership voice, and it's helping to shape what happens next. Because the last time Specialist Jessica was in front of you, we were extending our science curriculum to be able to allow space for this type of work to happen. And so she's engaging in it. And so the next time she comes back, there likely will be an ask that is, this is where we are, and we would recommend this goes to the finance committee in terms of actually purchasing. So it's just an update. Yeah.
Hey, I say Specialist Jessica? That's what you just called her.
I
What's your last name?
did. She is a specialist.
Thank
Your
you.
last name?
Vander Ark.
Okay. Specialist Jessica, that's easier. And I like that sound. No, so I don't know a lot about science. I haven't taken a science class in forever, but I hear the terms applied science and then experiential learning, and I was just wondering, can you explain like the difference in that? Because I just feel like applied science to me seems like something that myself and other scholars probably that, just aren't science-minded are able to use what they're learning in real life, like I'm cooking, I'm making a cake, and I can apply the science lessons that I learned about mixing and all of that stuff. Can you explain, like, is that like experiential learning? Is that like almost the same?
Yeah, I think you've got a good grasp on the difference. Traditionally, many of us were brought up in a science class where we were given all the answers first and told to memorize these things and then apply them. The effort has flipped in a way where we're asked to do investigations. So science is an activity and an action instead of words on a page that we need to learn. So what happens is we don't give them all the answers up front. We give them problems to solve and questions to research the answers to. So phenomenon-driven is the same thing of what you're talking about, being able to not only do things hands-on and experiential, but also being able to do it cooperatively with other people in group dynamics is a big part of how it's done as well. So all of those things that turn it into more, like you said, a hands-on experience. And the idea is that the experience you're going to learn. The words on the paper memorizing aren't going to really impact you going forward. Not the way that you will memorize and remember an experience that you had doing something. And
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
I love the whole shift from it just being something conceptual and up here to recognizing that we're all scientists and immersed in it every day and helping to bring it to life and point out that when you choose how you're going to dye your hair or how you're going to mix that drink or the basic things of everyday life, you're also
Yeah.
talking about science. So bringing it alive and making it relevant and culturally relevant and shifting identity. It's not something that those scientists do with a white coat, but that we all do.
And
Yeah.
seeing the career potential that
Because
every
I,
scholar
yeah,
has.
I think, just with this younger generation and in the demographics of the children we're teaching, it's like making it make sense. Like, why do I, that was a question that I asked in school, like, why do I need to know this? Like, I don't use none of that stuff. When I'm an adult, I want to play football. Why do I need to know this? Like, this is why. This is exactly why, So I'm just interested in the conversations we're having with our students and the way that we're presenting information to them to make it, make sense for them, and that's how we engage them to make them want to learn.
I love it. I do need to clarify something. I said mixed drink. I mean like Gatorade packet, Kool-Aid
Oh.
packet in water to
Yeah, 'cause that's
use
not what I
the
got from
chemicals
that.
in the water. That's what I was talking about. Okay, just to be
Thank
clear.
you for clearing that
Yes,
up.
sorry.
That's science too, but.
Just to make sure I'm tracking, the quest for Tier 1 science curriculum is occurring for K-12, or are we settled for K-5, or at least settled for a recommendation with mystery science for K-5? So then the gap is curriculum for 6-12. I just want to.
Yeah, both are correct. The situation is our K through 5, we have curricula, but not supplies. So we have our mystery science for through 2026, but we want to make sure that every classroom has the materials and supplies they need. So that's the request for that. But as far as the high school goes, we will need to have a new 6 through 12 curricula in place for our upcoming school year.
Okay.
So for K-5, I'm wondering a little bit, I know there's some reading, grade level reading throughout the science curriculum. Is there opportunity for interdisciplinary crossover of, taking some of the writing and reading components from reading and kind of putting those into, okay, science? Because I know that's the thing that really is the barrier, is the time. There's so little time that often that gets in the back burner. So I'm really passionate about having great text in other disciplines because of the authenticity that that brings. So that is a question. And then the other part is, who prepares all these materials? Those are both hurdles. So the crossover, you said yes. How do the materials get to the teachers? Do they get a list and money and they have to go buy it? Is there packages that come already prepared?
I remember the second question better. I'm sorry, I didn't bring a pen up here.
You're okay.
There's some crossover. So
Give
that
it to
just
you too. Yeah,
First
and
time
she'll say
nerd.
it
Just
again.
the
She'll say
supplies.
it again.
Yeah.
Don't worry
Okay.
about it. Answer the one that you
Okay.
remember.
All right. As far as the materials, so as you're aware, what it comes as a kit, and there are certain materials in there that are consumable that need to be replaced on a yearly basis. And some of it is supply, but most of it is, going to last only a few years and need to be replaced. But that is science, and so we have to, if we want to have what I like to say is a world-class science program, we have to be willing to put some sort of investment towards making sure when we're teaching science, we have those supplies in our hands. Who will manage it? So we've been working very hard at the service building to try to get it ready. Thank you, Allie. For new kits to come in. And we have been also researching different options about how to maintain the kits. One option would be yours truly, managing all of that, Allie helping me manage all of that. But there are also other creative options out there. There are services that could be, contracted if we chose to that do that. So we ultimately have to decide what's best for us long term. And I don't know if we're ready to make that decision yet, but it would need some replacement every year. But I would like to see investment this year while we can, and then, but then laying the groundwork to the expectation that we'll continue investing in our scholars to get good quality resources for science.
Money will be there, and we're still figuring out the how things will get there.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Do you want to ask the other part, or?
No,
does that-
I saw Jonathan about, like, yes, it's going to be some interdisciplinary crossover, which helps
Oh,
absorb
okay.
some of that time.
I think,
Okay, thank you.
yes. And there's been good talks amongst the curriculum supervisors ourselves, working on that. How do we do that? Not only that, get our educators comfortable with that concept of cross-curricular and interdisciplinary teaching. So we all walk the walk and talk the talk. We'll get there.
So, what about the 5th through 8th? Do they have their own curriculum?
6th through 8th are also going to be piloting curriculum. The 6th through, I should have probably clarified that. The 6th through 8 is going to pilot their top choices, and the 9 through 12 will be piloting their top choices. They are not smushed together as all one. We want to see what's best for middle school and what's best for high school, and then make a decision.
It is in high school, though, more like chemistry, biology.
Yes.
That kind of thing. So you're considering new curriculum for those kinds of
Yes.
classes as well?
Yes, and if I can pop back up to the pictures, oh, sorry. Yeah, we've been piloting, we've looked into what are high-quality resources for 9th through 12th, and all your big companies like your Savas and your LabAids and your OpenSci and your, yeah, we've been researching them all that we can get our hands on that are aligned in the way we need them to be aligned for Michigan. So I wish it would be easy that we could just say, there's one great one and
No,
it's
we
6
can't
through
do that.
12, easy choice. But no, chances are it's going to have to be a little bit of a patchwork system to actually fit the needs of all of our
The ideal
schools.
is to have, like, a couple of biology teachers using all of these different ones that you're really considering, and then
Mm-hmm.
they would make a recommendation to you as the strongest one that they see.
Yes. Feedback, not only them, but their scholars too. Hopefully,
yeah,
we'll be able to extract some of their thoughts.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Solid information, and you did a nice job. I know it was one of your first times back, so thanks again.
Thank you.
Good job.
And here's what's next. Let me get through the intercession update. I'll ask Director Harper to join us at the table. We do feel like this is an extension of what we do day to day, but over the course of winter break. So, Mr. Harper?
That's right. Thank you, Dr. Lovelady Mitchell. Thank you, board members. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Jessica. Well done. Yeah, so intercession, also known as winter break extended learning, is in full swing, and we're preparing for that. And just as with everything else, we want to make sure that we are clearly making connections to our strategic themes and priority scholar outcomes. Of course, in particular, meeting holistic scholar needs, equitable access and outcomes, as well as enhancing curriculum and program opportunities. This is, I believe, our third year of engaging with winter break extended learning. And so what we have done is it really is a targeted intervention for scholars that we're showing at or below, or scoring at or below the 40th percentile on the fall MAP growth reading and or mathematics assessment. Okay, so our scholars took that math assessment in the fall, and as you're aware, they take that 3 times a year, so fall, winter, and spring. And so we have our fall data, and for scholars that were at or below the 40th percentile, parents and caregivers received an invitation for their scholar to participate, both in the parent-caregiver email that we have on file, as well as we sent translated letters via printed mail as well. And so we did have a registration deadline of Friday, December 1st. Right now, we finalized our enrollment. We have approximately 190 scholars currently registered to participate in intercession. We have 33 teachers that have stepped up and are willing to spend part of their winter break working to support our scholars. And we do have also 4 principals identified, 1 per quadrant, to be present to support scholars and the teachers as they're engaging with winter break extended learning. You can see kind of in that tannish colored box, really the logistics. So with the holidays falling on both on Mondays, we looked at the calendar and really wanted to have a break for that day right after the holiday. So you'll notice that December 27, 28, 29 is a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So obviously we're off for 2 weeks with winter break. So intercession learning would take place then on the 27th, 28th, and 29th, and then January 3, 4, and 5. It'll take place approximately 9 to noon. It is all virtual, and so our teachers, the 33 teachers, will be engaging with small groups of scholars via Zoom, and then would be either engaging with IXL and then could be Seesaw or Schoology depending on the grade level. Intercession, this particular piece that we're talking about is specific to K through 8. I do want to make sure there's awareness. We do have some scholars working at the high school level as well within intercession, primarily for credit recovery, working on E2020 or Edgenuity. This information is with the Zoom and interaction is for our K-8 scholars. So this is an example of the schedule that we might see. This is not set in stone, but this is to give you an idea of what it might look like, right? So from our teacher's perspective, the idea would be that they would engage within a homeroom. We're calling it a homeroom. So they may have a group of scholars that could be relatively small, up to 15 or so plus. It depends on how the groupings worked out. And so we're asking that they do a whole group homeroom every day during intercession, and that's really to build, have really that classroom
Cohesiveness,
relationships, community. Yes, thank you, Dr. Mitchell. So just making sure that they have, the scholars feel that connection both to their peers as well as their intercession teacher. And then you can see how the groups break down. So if the teacher was breaking up into small groups or even individuals, working with individual students, there might be different periods of time where the teacher's working one-on-one or with small groups, and you can kind of see that grouping breakdown. From a scholar's perspective, they would all, of course, engage in homeroom with their intercession teacher, and then they might spend, let's say 45 minutes working on IXL related to mathematics or reading, but depending on what their skill plan is. Then they would take a break, and then they might have one of their small group meetings with their teacher. They would have some time for independent reading via Sora, which is our digital library, right, in partnership with the Grand Rapids Public Library. And then, again, some work on IXL. Both of these are the skills that are being focused on, and I'll skip to the next slide, is really around content. So it's specific to English language arts and mathematics. And within IXL, there are specific skill plans that can be built for scholars based on their the data. So as we mentioned, that the 40th percentile and below at map growth, on the map growth reading or mathematics, can be applied to the individual scholar skill plan in IXL. And so this is what's helping guide the independent guided work from the scholars within the IXL. Teachers also can use our ReadyGen materials as well, and as I mentioned, the GRPS e-library with Sora for some independent reading time.
Speak a little bit about the data, nuanced a little more, because he's talking about both data from assessments, but data from the staff that they interact with.
Yeah, yep. So one of the things, and this is the next slide. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. So, yep. So we are right now. We're in the process of assigning and finalizing the intercession staff to the small groups. Mr. Eric Harmson's been a big support with that, as well as rostering scholars both in Synergy and via Clever, so they have the digital access. So our Aaron Goltra and our instructional tech team have been working closely with that. Dr. Mitchell's, the third bullet there is something new. So we recently sent a survey. I want to thank Amy Powney for this. It was it was a wonderful idea, and based on some feedback that we had received from our intercession teachers in the past couple of years, a survey was sent to principals regarding the scholars that were registered. So if parent caregiver registered their scholar to participate in intercession, we asked for feedback from the classroom teacher that the scholar currently has. So what is this particular scholar working on? What if, what are they working on in the class? What are some things that could guide the intercession teacher to help target individual and support needs for scholars? So that's a new piece of data on top of the MAP growth data that we're using to target supports for scholars. And so that's just one-on-one surveys that we've
Am I
collected.
understanding this correctly? You're going to check with the regular homeroom teacher or teacher who has them the rest of the year? You're going to check with them to find out this information?
That is exactly correct. Yep, Ms. Alcilus, that's what, yep. So that survey was sent to those homeroom teachers, the regular teachers during the classroom, during the year, to help inform the work of the intercession teacher. So the other piece is if we have scholars that need a device, so if they don't have a device at home to use, principals are working to make sure that their scholars that are assigned from their building receive a device and a charger. It could be an iPad or a Chromebook to take home during intercession so they can access these tools and learning opportunities. We do have contact information there. So I'm the point lead in relation to the work for intercession, but we also do have staff at help desk. So for our scholars and families, and as well as our teachers, if there's any technical issues that creep up, then we do have help desk staffed for support there as well during intercession. So, and really, this is, again, I believe this is our third year doing this, and so from the board's perspective, just continue to share the good news and lift up the positive work that we're trying to do to support individual needs of scholars. And I really would like to say, celebrate our scholars and their caregivers and the educators that are willing to provide, commit time over their well-deserved winter break to spend some time continuing to support our scholars.
Looking ahead a bit, could we maybe, I don't know, maybe the end of this academic year, see maybe some outcome information on the past few years, this year and the past couple of years, and just getting a gauge on whether there's any movement from a MAP scores perspective for the young people who engaged in the intercession?
We can certainly do a summary report of this experience as well as comparing to others. This is only 6 days, right?
Oh, no, totally. I'm
over
not
intercession.
expecting, I didn't have, I'm just
yeah.
more just, and I don't ask that for it to be a laborious thing either.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, maybe it's more of a curiosity, so it may not even be fully appropriate, because like I said, one is just 6 days, and two, it may just be my curiosity more than really gauge a real impact either, so.
Well, yeah, and I think that's absolutely appropriate. And some of the things last year we did some post surveys of teachers. I think some principals. We may have even gotten some scholar and parent feedback as well. Yeah, and Mr. Harmson helped collect that data. So we will be doing the same thing this year, which then we could provide a follow-up report. I do think there's an impact, and we heard that from parents. Is not just academic scores, but also building that relationship with someone over intercession, right? A caring adult, a teacher that can help continue to support that scholar. So there's multiple positive things, but we would love to share that data with you.
Now, those scores, those MAP scores that we saw, that were taken in the fall, now we give the MAP again in the spring?
The MAP is administered in the fall, winter, and spring. So we'll have another MAP assessment coming up. I don't know the exact window, but I believe it's right shortly after we come back from winter break. Yeah.
And then, so at that point, then we will have a scaled or at least a comparison, a growth, how they're moving.
We'll be able to see for all scholars that took the whatever scholar took the MAP assessment in the fall and the winter, we'll be able to see that growth comparison between fall and winter. Yep.
There's no other questions then.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I think he's hesitating a little bit because he knows he's coming back with Allie. So
I'm on
let's
point for the next
invite
3, so.
Allie down. But while Allie is coming down, I just want to stitch this a little bit in terms of, we talked earlier about doing schedule audits. And remember, we were talking about doing the audits and having some information shared that helped us understand where we need to go deeper and tighten up on. And one of the things that we talked about is science and social studies, of course, being additional opportunities for us to even build our literacy skills. It's not just ELA. And so really thinking across all of the things that we do during the course of the day to strengthen critical thinking, writing, reading, and communication. Allie's at the table, and we do think that this is another literacy type strategy as well as just joy. So talk about it.
Yeah, well,
Both
first
of
of
you.
all, I'm wondering if, Ally, would you like to introduce yourself? 'Cause I'm not sure that everyone has ever met
No,
Ally.
I'm Allie Currid-Sampson. I work in library and media.
So Ally's our library and media coordinator extraordinaire and does a phenomenal job. So everything related to textbook distributions, any sort of literature, text that's distributed through the district, Ally and her library media team do that and have been the ultimate leads on the Take Home Library Initiative. So thank you, Ally, for that. Again, we're connecting this to our scholar priority outcomes and strategic plan themes. So in particular, enhancing equitable access and outcomes and curriculum and program opportunities. And this is really, I consider this a celebration because this has been such a phenomenal experience. This is our second year with our Take Home Library Initiative. BNN, apologize, we should have spelled that out. That is Barnes & Noble, so we have a partnership with Barnes & Noble. Allie, would you like to talk about kind of the status of where we're at so far?
So last year, when we did this, we did the entire district in 5 months. And that was crazy. Because what we do is we set up all of their events, we inventory all the books that come in, and then we do an exit inventory at the end. So then Barnes & Noble has exactly the books that our scholars took. When we first thought about that, we thought that was a great idea till we started to actually do it. And now this year, we are doing it throughout the entire year, so we have a little bit of wiggle room. And we've set up 13 schools already. The scholars all have their books. We truly had to emphasize that these are their books, not for their sisters, not for their friends, not because our scholars are so generous. They're like, my little sister will like this, or they were trying to get books instead of, but we really stress that these are for you, for you to take home. Any GRPS student from pre-K through 12 get books, and they get 5 books each, and a bag. So once the scholars chose their books, and it was truly for them, then you can see the sparkle in their eyes, and they talk to their friends and their teachers and anybody that would listen how awesome the books they had were. So doing this program is just amazing. We did 13 schools. We are in the process of putting orders in for 12 more schools, and then we will finish the year with the last 15 schools.
So Allie and her team have done all this work, and it's been phenomenal. I also want to say that all of the building leaders and support staff in the buildings have been phenomenal with this too, helping coordinate with our partner at Barnes & Noble, to coordinate the dates and times and locations and setting up the space. And so there's a lot of many hands make sort of light work, right? And but it's been just phenomenal. So Allie took some time and put together feedback from some of the schools, not all of the schools, but we do have some of this. And there's a lot of text on these slides, but we bolded some of the pieces that just so that you could peruse it quickly. But just excited to have. The students were excited to have the books and are already reading them, right? This is from high school, right? So this is at Union. One of the scholars, an 11th grade scholar, said, I enjoyed picking out my own books. We're excited that Spanish books were those for those that speak Spanish. One of the 11th graders, that one down below, said, I don't have many books at home, and I like that I was able to find things that I like to read, right? Mm-hmm. And it got me into reading. So some other examples from our Riverside scholars, I won't read all these to you, but I'm trying to think of one that jumps out in particular. That second one where it says, the event allowed our students to have their voices heard in the selection of the books that were made available to them. It allowed them to partner with some of our MOSI students to help them make selections for reading as well. So this has been really about having relevance and inclusiveness as well, and choices for scholars to choose from that are of interest to them, right? And we're not telling scholars what to pick. And so Allie worked very closely with Barnes & Noble to make sure that the selection was appropriate, but broad, right?
We also did books in other languages. So I worked with SDS to get the list of languages in the buildings, and then the books that we could get in those languages, we brought into those buildings. So some buildings had 7 or 8 languages, and a lot of them were dual language books.
So Barnes and Noble donated all these books and then our kids got to pick the ones they wanted?
So if you recall, the Board of Education supported this program last year through our ESSER dollars. And so this is our second year being able to do this. So we actually use ESSER funds to partner with Barnes and Noble to allow scholars to have these 5 books to take home. So they're not donated. There is a cost to them, but this is part of the program that we brought.
Yep.
I think we proposed it a little over 2 years ago, and that came to fruition last year, and then this is the second year.
So as I remember, I think there was even a couple of different vendors that were explored, and Barnes and Noble had the most depth because of the languages, like you said, and just also the infrastructure to make something this big happen with a district that has so many different stakeholders.
Yeah, we went through the full RFP process and
So
had
they brought
proposals
the
and
books to
reviewed
the
them.
schools? And the kids didn't go to their stores, they just brought the books?
Correct.
So the process, what we do is, the books are ordered, there's a list that Barnes and Noble gave the librarians and the principals, and they got to look at the list. And then what we did was, we took the most popular books that we know the scholars are reading now, added those to the list, and then we did a big order. Each school does their own order. It goes to the school, and then we make up a mock store. We set up all the books for the scholars to walk through, and they get their little shopping bags and fill 5, and they pick 5 books for them.
Now I know what they were all doing at Aberdeen that day. I saw.
When they all had their Barnes and
shopping,
Noble.
yeah.
I think the other piece that I really enjoyed about it was really building real world skill in terms of the adults not making all the decisions about the books that were selected, but also just that process of going to a store, whether it was physical or virtual, just all of the thinking and the choice selection and what you consider. So I felt like there were several layers of real world application.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I was just wondering how much it costs. Like, how much does it cost to give 5 books to every kid in our district? That's a lot.
We can provide that to you. We have that all in the full proposal.
Curious.
So.
Yeah, we'll go back and get the total amount.
And does Barnes and Noble like discount the books? I mean, it's a partnership, so they, made some
This was not
contribution.
fully altruistic. They certainly, profited from this. And
Okay.
I would say they always offer some kind of educational discount. But
They
let
gave
us
us-
get the,
A 30% discount on the books.
but it is a beautiful partnership.
It is. It's, better than Riff. Like, remember you used to go to, no, not Riff. What's the other, but you had to pay for Riff. But it was
The
that one.
Scholastic Book Fair.
When you all walked down through there.
Oh, yeah.
And you couldn't
So-
get nothing because you didn't have no money.
This way, that's critically important. In fact, that was part of the original proposal, right? Is we wanted to make sure that this was accessible to all scholars. There wasn't any barriers. There is no exchange of money. It's not about who has $10 in their pocket to go buy a book or whatever. So this is ensuring that all scholars have access to these books every year.
I love
is the
that.
intent. And thank you, Ally. We put together several slides with different pieces of feedback. Ms. Downs-Lewis, there's some quotes from Aberdeen there on the bottom as well. But, it's just been phenomenal across the board, positive experiences, and the work that the library media team has put in, as well as the building-based support staff and admin teams have just been phenomenal. So we just love to keep it going. Like I said, it's more of a celebration than anything. So I think it's great to just share these stories.
So in relation to that keeping it going piece, I think I don't think anyone would obviously ever argue that this is a real value add for our students. But from a practical perspective, once ESSER funds are expended or no longer available, I guess I'm thinking about how we would discern whether we want to continue this investment on an annual basis and what might be the decision-making criteria to do so, other than the fact that we all know it's a good thing, for sure. There's no question there. But obviously there's
It's gonna cost something.
Yeah, so again, I guess my question is just generally speaking, looking at a future recommendation to a future board to want to fund this, what might we be looking at to offer as rationale or justification other than the feel good and aspect of it, I guess, if that makes sense.
So this, I think that really speaks to a larger system that we've been talking about related to the ESSER Cliff. And so the system that we're currently thinking about is, it goes back to that core instruction related to this particular program was more like the bow on top. That one amplified school and home partnership that also amplified fluency of just reading or having a book in your hand and being able to take it home. They had it at school, but at home too. And so this larger system that we're putting in place and vetting is how does this relate to Core One? What is the impact? What is nice and what is a non-negotiable essential thing? And so as we get closer to the ESSER Cliff, this will be more tertiary than primary, meaning I doubt that you'll see something at the scale that it was coming back in front of you just because of the dollars. We might be thinking about how we recycle some of the resources, but this was more of a bow on top, not a core instruction or a core or tier one type thing that I foresee us engaging in right away.
So when you're talking about the cliffs, we're gonna fall off one.
Well, the money it will be
yeah.
different. And so we are just thinking about what is sustainable, most essential for us to move the needle.
Right.
This is great, nice, and related, and it might not be the biggest bang for our buck, given that there are fewer dollars, fewer resources for what we absolutely need. But it certainly was helpful in terms of family engagement, literacy, fluency, having books, texts in hands.
That is K through 12, that's
Amazing.
pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so yeah, just help us continue to share this good news. I mean, this is, like I said, a celebration, so we just want to make sure that the story is told, and
Yeah. I want to say this too, though, really quickly. Allie, thank you so much
Yes, thank you.
for all of your help, and Jonathan as well. When I talk to educators across the nation, what they reflect on related to ESSER is we were in a global pandemic and people were losing their minds and also being bombarded with different demands and requests and things like that. And so it was looser in terms of what people were selecting. And yet this one was a great strategy in terms of how we utilize that because it met the elements of academic needs, the family engagement, caregiver engagement, and then joy, just joy. And so we felt like it hit a lot of those and hope to have some of those dollars like that going forward, but heard also that system of how we are looking and scrutinizing more closely because
I
the cliff
agree.
is a real thing.
I agree. I think that it is one of the many things, hopefully, that districts across the country have done with those ESSER funds that do those things that you highlighted. Like a lot of people might have missed because we're just functioning out of fear. We're panicking and we're just like, okay, we can do this and do that. And then you think back like, dang, we really could have done something different with those funds. And so I think like just reflecting on this one thing, I think is something that we definitely are proud of and could share that story with others, and it could be uplifted across the country. I appreciate all the work you and your team do. Thank you.
thanks, Ally.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allie. And so here's what's next, our iReady pilot update, and we'll ask Jill to come down as well. Jill is an early literacy specialist, and you may certainly pause and ask her to say more about who she is. But as we talk about getting data, having lived experiences, and needing to adjust, this is one of those moments. And so these two will tell you more about the why and the how and all of that.
Good evening. My name is Jill McCauley. I'm one of the early literacy team and ELA coaches here in the district. I've been here for many years as a classroom teacher, and past coach. So I'm happy to be here today.
Jonathan?
Yeah, so this iReady pilot, again, of course, we're connecting it to our strategic themes. And once again, really kind of a pattern today is theme 1, 3, and 4, meeting holistic scholar needs, making sure that we have equitable access and outcomes, and enhancing our curriculum and program opportunities. So Jill's actually going to present the first part of these slides, and then we'll kind of tag team this together. Right, Jill?
And I think smile a lot. I think we know you're not going to bite or intimidating, but the bright lights and all of that being down here for the first time is different. But we will tag team it. You won't be left alone. Say what you need to say.
I'm good. Yes, please, go ahead. So, currently in Grand Rapids Public Schools, our literacy assessment system for reading starts with a screener, and that screener is the NWA MAP Growth Assessment. After the scholars take that, kindergarten through 5th grade takes the MAP Reading Fluency Assessment, or MAP. And this is what the kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers use to inform what they'll write in the individualized reading improvement plans, or the IRIPs. So that's our current assessment system for reading right now. The challenge that we're having after receiving a lot of feedback from principals and teachers district-wide is that the MAP Reading Fluency Assessment is not giving them enough targeted diagnostic data related to reading foundational skills and comprehension. The MAP Reading Fluency is a screener. It is not a diagnostic assessment. So it does not give data right down to the skill level that those teachers need to inform their instruction. So here on this slide, you can see the white rectangle there is an example from the MRF, or MAP Reading Fluency, that the teacher, the teacher receives. You can see this student, Sean, is below grade level in phonics and word recognition, and the MRF is saying that he's working at the letter and sounds level, but it's not telling the teacher what sounds the child has mastered. Is it a beginning, middle, or end sound? Mm-hmm. And that's the data that those teachers need to get to inform their instruction. This slide is an example of the same student showing below grade level in listening comprehension. It says he understood 40% of complex oral sentences, but that does not provide information of what standards and skills specifically are missing related to that complex oral sentence. Maybe it's grammar. The teacher doesn't know. So what we are proposing is having a pilot, and would like you to consider that, as usual, all students would take the MAP Reading Growth 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. But then the schools that are piloting take the iReady diagnostic assessment. This is a diagnostic assessment which will give them skill level data. The kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers would use the iReady diagnostic data to inform them what to write on their IRIPs and what interventions specifically each scholar needs, right down to that nitty-gritty skill level. The iReady will also give these schools progress monitoring assessments that are short, about 15 minutes in length, that they can use to progress monitor while they're intervening with these students. Those come in English and Spanish. And then these schools will also continue to use the summative assessments that the district provides through ReadyGen, Hagerty, what we already have. So, what is iReady? It is an adaptive diagnostic assessment that will provide teachers with actionable data right down to, again, that skill level, knowing exactly where the student is. It is driven by comprehensible, actionable reports. The iReady includes tools for instruction that are lesson plans for that targeted specific instruction where it's needed most. The diagnostic also includes a growth monitoring features to evaluate student growth over time. And again, like I said, those 15-minute progress monitoring adaptive assessments. And it also correlates to state and national assessments, and that's especially important for our scholars so they have that rigor and that they see assessments that are similar to what they see in those high-stake tests like the MSTEP. So the iReady reports here that they get are district reports, there is school report, a class report, and I believe there's one more click for student report. So there are 4 reports that break it down from district to student data.
So, thank you, Jill. So, as Jill mentioned, there's some bullets here that kind of describe the different components related to the iReady assessment. And so we've been working closely with the quadrant area executive directors, as well as principals in buildings. And in blue there, we've talked to the principals as well as their staff related to the willingness and eagerness to pilot iReady. And so currently we have interest in the Southwest Elementary, which would pilot both the Spanish and English versions of the iReady assessment. And while this pilot is primarily focused right now on the ELA diagnostic, there is an actual mathematics diagnostic as well. And so Martin Luther King Junior Academy was interested in doing both English language arts and math. So that'll be an opportunity for us to glean data on that math diagnostic. Kent Hills would engage in the English diagnostic as well. And then we also have, you see on the right side, as Jill mentioned, there is a component of this that includes the personalized instruction and teacher lesson plans. That is an add-on service. But we do have 2 buildings that would pilot that as well. So then we could look at the diagnostic data related to what comes out of the assessments, as well as the tools for the direct intervention then based on that data. So those are currently the 5 schools. We are having conversations about one more, but wanted to narrow that down just yet. We didn't working on which one would be most appropriate. So the proposal, so this is really both the proposal for the pilot as well as the implementation plan. So we've been, we had meeting with the principals and the ILTs. Jill and I think Roseanne Wall, our ELA supervisor, has been working closely with principals. And then there will be training and support provided for the leadership team in the buildings as well, so that the ILT related to that work. And then each building leadership team would get the Getting Started Professional Learning Planning. That would happen in January. The idea then would be then that first iReady assessment would be done in February, which does match up with the window when other schools will be doing the map reading fluency. So rather than doing MRF, they would do the iReady assessment. Within the week of March, we would have the individualized support and training for analyzing the data and reports that the teachers would receive based on the iReady data. And then, of course, continued training and support would be ongoing. And then in May or June, we would really look at the totality of the data that was collected through the pilot and look at the feedback to make a determination on next steps. So really what we are asking for is for your support with is really understanding our efforts to really revise and implement a balanced assessment system. So recognizing, especially with the feedback that Jill described around that nuanced but yet critical gap in the data that is allowing our teachers to be able to really target individual skill needs for our scholars. And so this is an effort to address that gap. And then that whole diagnostic data piece to align instructional practice to support literacy for our scholars in both literacy and mathematics, right? I mean, this is the primary focus of this is not on mathematics, but there is a mathematics component, and I believe that we can learn from that as well in further conversation. So really we're asking for your support as far as moving forward with the pilot of this iReady within those identified schools for this winter.
This is more of a fluency, rather than just being able to read and understand. It's how to read it out loud and.
Joe, could you speak specifically to the
Sure.
components? Yeah.
So the iReady will assess all components of reading, the phonics, the phonemic awareness, it will talk about the oral reading, the comprehension piece, and then the teacher can then look at where her students have specific deficits, and then how they want to intervene, and what that will look like.
It's like going to the doctor and saying, I have pain in my body, but not knowing how to pinpoint where exactly the pain is. So you put the Band-Aid on your knee, but the pain was really on your elbow. And so this will help us in real time be able to say, oh, it's this part right here that we need to go deeper on, clarify, et cetera, versus just a mass intervention.
Yep.
Help us focus, and it's diagnostic.
Yeah, much
Yep.
more specific.
Yeah, more targeted.
So definitely understanding that assessment component at Frost and Ford, the personalized instruction element that's layered on there, is that makes me think of, it may not be totally analogous, but it makes me think of the PI associated with MAP, the sort of self-study piece that comes with, not MAP, the math thing. Thank you. Yeah. But but I'm definitely crossing my, my own stuff here. But anyway, so I guess just tell me a bit more about the personalized instruction component. Is that sort of saying, so for this particular student, here are some instructional recommendations for a particular student based on the assessment part?
Yeah, essentially. So the data that would come back then, that would actually automatically generate not within those reports. It would be really a component of this piece. So the right down to the student level data, but then what you are referring to here. So the personalized instruction and the teacher assigned lessons. So when the teacher received the data report for individual scholars, that extra component is they actually get, they're directed to personalized instruction for that specific scholar and lessons that would align with that individual scholar needs. So it's an added on component because it really is it's a tier 2 curricular resource that would help drill down to support
But that's already
individual scholars.
prepared. I mean, it's not like the teacher doesn't design it.
That's the key, right? So there isn't a preparation component. Once the data is gleaned back from the scholar assessment, the teacher, iReady provides that to the teacher. Yes.
So again, that was what I was sort of thinking about too. So it is, so iReady as a tier 2 curriculum tool has baked in it, for lack of a better word, the instructional lessons. So it wouldn't be a matter of trying to sort of cross those with the tier 1 curriculum tool.
They don't have to try and figure it out, right? It's provided to them. Yep.
I'm still going with my medical analogy in terms of you are sick and you go to the doctor, and the assessment piece lets us pinpoint what specifically the area or the injury ailment is. And then once you have diagnosed it with the assessment, you can go to a physical therapist and work specifically on blah, blah, blah. And so not only is it going to give us the diagnostic tool to say what it is, but give you like the strategies or the exercises to also say, and this is what you might do.
And then the progress monitoring as well. So while you're using those resources, you can progress monitor along the way to see, do I need to stay at the physical therapist, or do I need to go to an OT, or I'm done?
So
Yeah.
supporting the teacher the whole way. So you don't have to make up anything, and you don't have to guess. It takes all the guesswork out of it, but it does not provide a constraint either to the teacher.
It doesn't burden the teacher with
Right.
more lesson plans to make specifically for one kid. Yeah, okay, that's good.
So I think my last question, considering that this is a pilot, when we're done with the pilot, what might we do to discern whether or not, we want to use this long-term, and whether we want to use simply the assessment part versus assessment and personalized instruction element. So again, first, will we want to continue with iReady? So what we'll be looking at to make that decision. And then two, if we did choose to continue, or in that consideration, differentiating between which package, I guess, if you would.
Yeah, so a big component of that really is going to come back to the individuals that helped inform the need for this pilot, right? So the teachers that would be implementing this in the classroom would be looking at, is that data meaningful to them in relation to meeting individual scholar needs, in particular, like the IRIPS for K through 3. But then also, from the personalized instruction perspective, if the teacher's actually interacting with that, with the individual scholar, how does that go? So the feedback from our principals and teachers, supported, of course, with our executive directors, and then Jill and her 3 other counterparts, and related to the early literacy coaches, will be gleaning all of that data to come back and say, is this something that was this valuable, or does it kind of give us in the same spot as we are with MRF? Because that's ultimately what we're trying to do, is meet that gap.
Yeah, the essential question really is, did it do what it said it was going to do?
Correct.
Go ahead. You were going to say.
Greg, I understand.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'll just let you finish.
Yeah, I just, because we entered before, I wasn't here, but this is what we're learning and having conversations about. The reason why the teachers and the community leaders are asking for this is because we thought we had this tool that was doing A, B, and C. And it was doing A, B, and C. And yet we're also learning, because of our data and the situation, that we need something a little more in terms of the assessing and then the here's what you do piece. And so is it really going to be a layer that has that added value of one, diagnosing, so then we know exactly, and then the aligned activity and strategy to really help or intervene in the way that we need to in order to build capacity?
Yeah. So I guess it's safe to assume that if this did come forward later for something other than the pilot, part of that would obviously be something a bit more robust than the anecdotal data from instructors, that their anecdotal perspective, I guess, from teachers, that there's obviously some ability to capture comparative data using this versus what we use outside of the pilot. And that would be a part of potentially a future recommendation if teachers did think this was okay. I just wanted to say it out loud to sink it in
I
there.
just have
Thank
another
you.
question that's sort of a little off topic. Now, when you say you're a reading coach, now do you have just one building, or do you do a quadrant, or how do you do that?
Right now, there are 4 literacy coaches, and we each are part of one quadrant. We are focusing primarily on the teachers who are part of the early literacy team, helping them to facilitate the learning, the training that they're getting and the learning that they're getting to their buildings.
So you're working with the teachers more than working with the kids?
Yes, we're coaching the teachers. That might look like modeling and teaching. We're teaching a lot in the classrooms, modeling, co-teaching, observing.
Okay.
Can you tell me about the crossover between letters and iReady? Like, who that's been trained in letters has been weighing into this decision about iReady?
All of the coaches have been trained in letters, and kindergarten through 3rd grade at CA Frost are in the process now of training for letters. We're going into units 7 and 8 this semester, and then they'll be done. It's been a 2-year process. Yes, and then some of the teachers from each of the other schools.
Great. And then when you get this diagnostic information, the response, where do you plug kids into? So currently, I don't think there's a standalone phonics program being used across, there's Haggerty, but is there another phonics program, or what would you then respond to the diagnostic needs of each child with?
Do you mean what assessment specifically?
Materials, more like in the classroom materials?
Well, we're focusing mostly on strategies that the teachers are getting trained. So really, it's not the program or the curriculum that's teaching the children. It's the strategies that they're using and learning, a lot of those science of reading strategies. So right now, we have the ReadyGen foundational skill piece, but a lot of teachers are filling in those holes with some other programs. However, it's the strategies that they're bringing forward that they're learning through the letters training.
And so the core teachers would be responsible for all the tier 2 we're talking about in this diagnostic scenario. Okay. Yeah.
The other thing I would just say is that we always try to ask what other schools that have a similar population are utilizing some of the instructional tools and strategies that we're engaging in. That was the other thing that led us to this, in terms of we think that there are like schools, like populations that have utilized this for a while and have seen some growth. So that's the other piece of this.
Okay, anything else there? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. The last thing that I wanted to say about iReady is the pilot. The pilot is also will teach us about what systems are in place and what might we need to consider as we roll this out. Like if this is effective, what else is needed in order to support this and really have it take root. But related to next steps and future topics, we will certainly bring back the full cost of the Barnes & Noble initiative where we used the ESSER dollars. That was one of the things that you all talked about. You also talked about early middle college in general, like where are we, which schools? So we'll map that out better in addition to our articulated or concurrent credit, in particular with our partnership, with GRCC. And we'll explore Teacher Academy work and initiatives as well, because there's some exciting stuff happening with that. Those are the things that I documented for today. Grateful for the time that you're spending with us through all the FMP. I know that's a lot, as well as being here tonight. We don't know the dates of our future meetings, but when we get back at I don't remember what it's called, but that's when that'll be decided.
Organizational meeting. Yeah, actually, no, I think we should go ahead and plan for the same cadence for January, which would be the third Thursday. Well, there are 5 Tuesday. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So that would be
Third
January 16th. But then February, we're likely to, then that's when the potential
Okay,
change
so
might
January
occur.
16, and then make the adjustment, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our next meeting is January.
Well, if you're on Academic
Yeah.
Achievement Committee. So it may be a new committee.
Okay.
But for the sake of scheduling.
Just stick
we're
with
gonna-
January 16.
Yeah.
Okay,
and,
January 16, and it may be a new committee, and then we'll decide from there.
Correct.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. What else might you want us to know, or?
I don't know if this is a academic achievement committee question, but I would like to know what building leaders are actually teaching in classrooms. Like
What building teachers are?
leaders, like principals that are not
Subbing?
principally.
Oh,
Subbing.
yeah.
Is
Yes.
that something that we can learn about? Like,
Yes.
even if it's like, maybe if it's long term, I'm not talking about like they
Mm-hmm.
had to step into a room, but like we might
Okay.
have some building leaders that are actually,
Okay. Yes, and it changes sometimes by second or class period or day
I
or
get
week.
that.
It is actually, yes.
or maybe if there's leaders who have like, okay, yeah, this building leader has been in a class for the last 4
Okay.
weeks.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
And I've been asking about the suspension rates.
We do have suspension and attendance rates coming up.
Okay.
That's in 2024. It's coming up.
Can we make sure that they are reported by school? Last year when we got those, it was just the rates, but we didn't know what schools had what. Like, I would like to see what schools had
Okay.
suspension rates.
You want to be able to drill down attendance and suspension. And so I will look into all of that, and it is certainly slated. So it's a yes. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I
you.
hope you enjoy your well-deserved break.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays.
And work on those
or
science projects over the
Whatever
break.
is